My widowed dad is hooking up with my mom's friend.
Ooh, call it a comeback story.
Oh, God.
What?
Well, keeping that, my mom became friends with a woman. We'll refer to her as Reagan. And after, she and I became close friends too as I worked with her. We've been friends for a good few years, but my partner and I and my brothers never really liked Reagan and said that she was very rude and abrupt and also extremely entitled. I did see this too, but I'm a pushover and a people pleaser, so I always let things slide until it reaches a breaking point. By the way, this comes from OK Cabinet 2908, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. So, my mom had cancer and sadly passed away in 2021 and was only in her 50s. My dad is not the type of person that does well on his own, and he and my mom did everything together, so I fully expected he would meet someone else at some point.
Okay, all right. So at least that's expected.
Yeah. OP's giving him kind of the license, like, hey, yep, makes sense. Especially as he was also fairly young and hopefully still had a lot more life to live. At one point, my sister said that she thought that Reagan and my dad were seeing each other, to which I said, no.
Nuh-uh.
As I knew he was seeing someone else at that time.
Dude, daddy's playing the field.
Dude, daddy chill.
Daddy chill.
Daddy chill.
What the hell is even that?
I even spoke to Reagan about this, but more along the lines of, isn't that funny? Not a free pass to go pursue my dad.
Oh boy, Reagan is looking at that free pass.
Yeah. She thought it was the go card.
Yep.
You know, proceed 2 steps
like,
to your destination.
I am going, I'm looking through that estate sale.
Oh yeah.
After mom's passing, and I just chose your dad.
And we're closing on it.
Yeah.
We're closing.
So fast forward to my wedding. My mom passed away 7 months before our wedding, so it was still extremely fresh, and of course, her absence was very much felt. Reagan had already done a couple of entitled things at that point. One being that she had asked if she could bring her kid to our no kids wedding. I, of course, said no, and she still insisted, but I held firm and said it's only immediate family, i.e. nieces, nephews, and our own child.
Okay.
She told me, well, in that case, you have to help find childcare for her kid. Whoa, that's crazy. Otherwise, she can't go. I did give her another firm no, as I was already busy working full-time, caring for a 1-year-old and planning a wedding. She did find childcare, and she did end up coming.
Okay, well, at least that, but I don't know. I feel like I don't even want Reagan coming at this point.
Yeah, I'm not like,
Please,
it's
Reagan,
ick.
be in my life. Screw my dad.
Oh, God.
He needs a relief.
Golly.
Raise at least one thing from the dead. Whoop.
Everyone grieves differently.
I grieve different.
I didn't see anything during the day. I was busy having fun at my own wedding with my husband. Makes sense. But in the morning, when we came down to breakfast, Reagan was also there. This surprised me, and she proceeded to say how she booked last minute to stay at the venue itself. I found it quite odd, especially as we'd booked all rooms for family, but I didn't think too much more of it. Put an ICU in the comments.
Oh, I see you.
You see the use?
I'm seeing the use.
You see the use? You see the use?
They shacking.
Mm-hmm.
They shacking.
In the same room. No need to book one. A couple of months later, when we met up, she told me that her and my dad had been seeing each other. Like, hey, I'm
partner
looking at Riley right now.
You.
I see Riley.
Seeing Riley.
Or is it like, I'm seeing Riley?
I think he's. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
God.
There it is. Shake that thing.
The creaking noises were too much. Now I was quite taken aback and asked since when, and she told me that they had hooked up at my wedding.
Let's go.
What a classy move.
Nothing makes someone hornier than love.
Then your kids love.
Dude.
Yep, then your kids love. God. I love watching my daughter get married so much. I need to get in the room right now.
No. Apparently, she pursued him there, but the only reason she did it was because I'd apparently put the idea into her head when I had told her what my sister said about thinking they were seeing each other already, again, which was a joke.
The funniest jokes have a little bit of truth to them.
Oh, unfortunately they do.
There is a joke inside every joke.
Oh, God. And there's
More things inside than just a joke.
Oh,
I will say, she is closer to my dad's age rather than mine, but I found it very strange nonetheless. I said, okay, well, I guess I'm happy for you both, but just to be clear, this is my dad, not just a random boyfriend of yours, so you absolutely cannot talk to me about any of your relationship stuff. She agreed, but still trampled all over that boundary many times regardless. Reagan not feeling like the best friend / stepmom ever.
oh no, not
Dude.
friend / stepmom.
When the friend becomes the stepmom.
Stepmom friend.
That's not good. It's not Uncle Dad.
It's not. It's
But
no
it's-
uncle. It's no uncle.
It's
Dad.
no Uncle Dad, but hey, it's also not.
The best.
It's not. No. No. No.
Not
no,
the
no,
best.
No.
I had to repeatedly tell her to stop over the following months. Another piece of crucial information is that she is a single mother of a young son under 8 years old, new brother,
Let's go.
who is adopted and referred to as Alan. Alan is on the autism spectrum. Some more crucial info. Now,
His name. Wait. Did you just put in Alan?
I put in Alan.
His name is A.
His name is A.
I hope it's not. Yeah. Okay.
We should call him autistic.
Yeah. I feel like they
Audie.
were. I feel like they were all. I'd be like, is A for autistic?
Dude.
Like you got to choose a different letter.
Hey, this was OP's choice, not mine.
Yeah.
We're
All right.
we're
Yeah,
in
that's
the
on
bed
OP.
that OP made, and
Okay,
there's
so-
nothing we
But
could
for
do.
simplicity's sake, we'll just call him Audie.
That is crazy.
After several months, my dad confided in me that he had met someone. He told me a little bit about her. She was actually only a few years older than me. Which I found weird at first, but now we've got to know her and she's really lovely. It was very awkward for me though, as I knew from Reagan's perspective, they were still together. Wait a second. Are we understanding right that him and Reagan started seeing each other potentially casually, and now, because remember, she was like, oh, Reagan is actually pretty close in age to my dad, and now dad is coming back to OP and is like, hey, OP, I'm actually seeing someone, she's like, oh, she's kind of close to your age. It seems like this is not Reagan.
Daddy is playing the field.
Daddy's doing might be doing a little too much.
Doing Lord's work.
Daddy's going crazy in these streets.
Yeah, dude.
Crazy in these streets and maybe these sheets.
I think so.
It seems likely. My dad asked me not to say anything to Reagan. There it is. That sounds like confirmation to me.
Daddy's got a roster.
Golly. He's feeding him pasta and lobster. I was never going to get involved, but I didn't like being in the middle of it this way, and it was exactly what I didn't want to happen. In the end, my dad ended up ending things with Reagan, but still remained friends with her, and Reagan somehow became a fixture in her eyes, definitely in our family. Oh,
Reagan's trying to plant her flag or right in the middle.
dude, she is not trying to leave. Not trying to leave. She would invite herself to family events and bring Alan. She organized a party for Alan at my parents' house, etc. I didn't quite understand why, but we're going to get to that shortly. Stay locked in. A few months later, my dad announces he and the new girlfriend are engaged.
And Daddy was seeing new girlfriend at the same time as Reagan.
There was some
And
crossover.
were they official?
He did end things with Reagan, but there was
Yes,
also crossover.
Yes, but I
at
think
the
there was
same time.
crossover. And like, was it more serious when there was crossover?
Ooh, like
'Cause
just new girlfriend now.
It could be they were like dating, and then he's like, oh no, I want to marry, so I'm going to break it off. But it was kind of like a little sus.
Super sus.
Daddy's getting drain.com.
We
Drainyourdaddy.com. We own that.
We might have to buy
We own
stop
that.
draining the daddy.
Stop draining your daddy.
We got to stop. This daddy is drained enough. His tank
His
is
tank
empty.
Dry.
It is bone dry.
He is shooting blanks.
Oh God.
It's just baby powder dust. Just
At this point. Now, Reagan messaged me about the engagement, and rather than ask how I felt about him being engaged so soon after my mom passed, she went on about how she felt and details I didn't want to know about her and my dad's relationship. I will say, throughout all this, she never really mentioned my mom, despite them being friends, and we all met her through her in the first place.
dude. All right, I see you, Reagan and Dad. doing it while the mom was still alive, or as the mom was passing away, because Reagan's like, "Oh, I'm here for you, my friend," and you know, Dad's like, "I'm here for you, my wife," and they're like, "Oh, we're both here for her. Like we have so much in common."
What do they always say? Common times when people cheat: pregnancy, hospital.
Pregnancy and hospital.
Pregnancy and hospital.
Yep, we got one. We got half of the situation.
Just saying.
And Reagan's.
Golly. Yeah, listen, and if there's one thing we know about Reagan is she knew what to do.
Oh yeah.
Okay. She was an expert in some things. Okay.
That she is. Also, she's a clown. The Ronald. I was making a Ronald Reagan, Ronald McDonald thing. Yeah, I didn't quite have it figured out.
It was close. It was close.
It was close.
Almost executed.
Almost executed.
You guys saw it. I don't need to complete it. You guys saw the vision.
We see it. We see the vision.
Yeah.
Oh, nah, I ain't seen nothing.
Fast forward to Dad's wedding. Reagan came and brought Alan with her. Kids were invited to this wedding. Alan has very volatile and challenging behavior. He has done some pretty awful things, like punting an 18-month-old girl in the back on a slide hard with both feet. He was 7, and has been pretty awful to my own kid too. Which, I mean, he is a child on the spectrum, so just to throw that out there, OP. But I digress. Now I feel terrible for insisting we still see them for so long, but I've learned never to do that again. Reagan always turns a blind eye or even tells the other parents off. That's where it's like, if Reagan is not stepping in and trying to help with it, that's the
I mean,
big
like,
one.
you got to do something. Like, put that kid in a bubble or something, you know?
The Samuel Donner parenting method.
I mean, hey, if my kid is constantly like hitting other kids, but I want my kid to socialize, bubble.
That is one way.
Bubble.
That is one way.
You can go and play, and then like
maybe all the kids are in bubbles, and it's like a bubble pit.
A bubble pit.
That would be fun. That would be a good time. That would be a good time. But to give you guys an example, she wouldn't do anything when Alan punted the little girl. I jumped up, apologized, and removed Alan from the situation. And Reagan then said, "Well, she clearly was too young to be on that slide, so what did the parent expect?" Not it, Reagan.
Dude.
At my dad's wedding, Alan was absolutely rampant. All the guests and the catering staff knew who Alan was by the end. He was running and attacking all the young children, throwing things at the adults, running through the catering tent and grabbing crockery and throwing it at / trying to grab the deep fat fryer, etc.
I think this is like, you know, there's as we're seeing in the chat, Josephine's like, "Hey, this is above autism." I feel like this is not just autism. I mean, I think it's a little bit of parental.
She's not correcting.
She is doing nothing. This is bad behavior. You know, we do want to, like, you know, give grace for people with special needs. But also, I feel like this is a parenting issue, and
especially like the deep fat fryer. Like, I think with the wedding is like, you just got to keep him home, socialize him at the park with other things, but like not the we don't need him at the wedding.
We don't need him at the wedding, and if he is at the wedding, bubble.
Bubble. I even watched this 8-year-old boy ripped apart a solid wooden bench with his own hands.
Man needs to be in some kind of sport.
Listen, super lifter here. The next, you remember the world's strongest kid?
These kids he ripped apart a bench?
Yes.
My goodness. This guy's the Hulk.
Let's put him something.
Powerlifting, boxing.
Put his superpowers to use. Bubble soccer. Oh man. It was a lot. So the whole time, Reagan made sure she was always at the opposite end of the venue, away from Alan, and seemed to quite deliberately ignore and allow Alan to wreak havoc. It came to a crux when Alan picked up a wooden chair and hit our child, then threw
John Cena! And coming in to the ring is Alan.
Chair.
He may have autism. That has nothing to do with what a powerhouse he is in this ring. Chair.
Bro, if you hit an adult with a wooden chair, that is bad. A 3-year-old? A toddler?
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Ooh.
But maybe that toddler shouldn't have stepped in the ring.
Oh, God, that's what Reagan is about to say.
Dude.
What did a baby expect going to a wedding? Our kid ran to us crying, and my husband went to him. He said something to Alan and then he ran off. I went over to speak to Reagan about Alan hurting our son, and instead of being receptive, she abruptly asked if I saw it. I said no, but I've seen Alan attacking all of the other kids, etc. Dude.
This kid is a menace.
Dude. She asked Alan, and he said, yes, I hit him.
Sorry. This is unacceptable. But damn. Man is truthful.
Bro is keeping it a whole $150.
He's keeping it 100%.
Wow. But that it was an accident.
Come on, man.
Reagan said, see, it was an accident. So there you go. What I'm more concerned about is that your husband is threatening my child. Reagan needs to be out of the family. I'm sorry. We need Reagan out right now.
Dude.
She has done nothing since the mom passed, but just like make things terrible.
Yeah, she is causing a ruckus. We don't need this, but you know what? I need more of Alan.
Dude, we need more Alan.
You know, I think we just need to channel this rage into something where he can be successful, because he's got that brutal honesty.
Yep.
There's something there. And then he's got just brutal chair hitting.
Mm-hmm.
This is
WWE superstar in the
making. I really
making.
think he could be the next John Cena.
WWE superstar.
Yeah, I think we got something here. Reagan just needs to be like, you know how they have those dance moms? Reagan needs to be a WWE mom.
Yes.
And get this kid into something where he can just blossom like the WWE star we know he can be.
Yeah, hit 6'5" muscled up men with chairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Not toddlers.
Yep.
That seems like a better recipe for success.
That is my one and only motto.
One and only
That's the
motto.
one and only motto I live by. Don't hit toddlers with chairs.
There we go. So I said to all this that I didn't know about that, but I'll speak to him. But I still think that Alan should apologize. She flat out refused and instead wouldn't let go about my husband. Which, listen, she's been holding on to a lot of the men in OP's life, so I'd be worried about that.
She has.
Let go, girl. It turned out that all he had said was, how would you like it if I hit you? So not a threat whatsoever. Just kidding.
How would you like it if I hit you?
How would you like it?
To a minor?
How would you like it if I hit you? That's
Bobby
an
Bot.
interesting one.
Who is Alan? Bobby Bot. Who is Alan?
Let us know.
Is Bobby Bot working? I don't even believe Bobby Bot works.
Where is he?
Bobby Bot. Who is Alan?
He's never appeared.
hiding.
He's hiding.
He is not into the chat.
Nope.
I avoided Reagan for the rest of the event, and she was rude and condescending to all the parents and even the catering staff, asking her to keep an eye on Alan as he was endangering their kids, them, and himself. She even stuck her hand up in the head caterer's face and walked off. Talk to the hand, buddy.
Dang.
She latched onto my sister, however, who later said that Reagan went on and on about how she was wronged by our dad, and he clearly overlapped them, and it's such an injustice to her. Because again, he was seeing, the new young wife now at the same time as he was Reagan in the beginning. We don't know how much communication was going on there. Not once did she mention our mom or how we might be feeling. She did later come to me, but acted like nothing was wrong. I told her I was really upset with how the situation was handled with our son being really physically hurt, and instead she just yelled at me that I have no idea how hard it is to be a single mom to an autistic child. Just pausing real quick right here. I think we need to break it down a little bit, fam.
Break it down.
What actionable steps should we do with Reagan at this point in time, do you think, with all that we've seen?
I think some low contact is in order for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the dad isn't seeing her actively anymore.
No.
Like OP doesn't like her. Who likes her in the family?
Nobody. She started latching onto and getting around the sister, and the sister's she's just,
I don't want this.
She's just yapping about everything she's been yapping about.
I think what we gotta do is we gotta put a little distance.
Yes.
I think we gotta tell Reagan, hey, we want a little distance. I think we tell everyone else, hey, I'm trying to have distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we gotta put a nice, clean, and delicious barrier between us and Reagan's ridiculousness. It sounds like she's more of a parasitic barnacle on the bottom of your boat, just latched on for dear life. And you just got to scrape those barnacles off.
We need to get a freaking a shovel and hop in the scuba gear and just go thunk, thunk, thunk.
Thunk, thunk. Yeah.
All those barnacles have been bunked off.
Yeah, get those barnacles off.
So Opie says, look, I get it. I'm not in the situation of being a single mom with an autistic child, but There was also another autistic child at the wedding, and he was being looked after and monitored by his mother.
See, autism is not an excuse, as Josephine said.
There you go.
Yep.
By the way, you know what else is not an excuse?
Tell me, John.
The fact that you haven't looked up our podcast yet, because we have full episodes with stories just like this. All you have to do is search OK Storytime on Spotify, Apple, or the iHeart podcast app. Is that a reasonable excuse, Sam?
To not watch it? There's no reasonable excuse to not watch it.
Zero.
Because literally you could search OK Storytime wherever you get your podcast. So freaking do it.
It's easy.
It's easy. Unless you're a silly goose.
Are ya?
Are you?
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, dude. That's you right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. I don't want to search OK Storytime.
Stop it.
Stop it.
So anyway, we all cut her off after that. And I told my dad to stop inviting her to family things, as we all have had a bad time as she routinely dumps Alan onto us and he is violent to our kids, etc., etc. My dad seemed hesitant, and I later found out that he had loaned Reagan a significant amount of money.
Why?
Why are we
are you
doing
this?
For what?
Reagan doesn't need anything
Or
except a bubble to put her
Yeah,
boy
let's put
in.
Reagan in a bubble.
Well,
That's
but
what
Reagan needs a bubble.
Yes, dude.
Her and her son should be in a bubble together.
But Opie says, I initially thought it was a few grand, which would be bad enough, but then it turned out to be $40,000. And he has not seen a penny back, and I doubt he ever will. $40,000 for the side piece.
Who's out here? Okay, really quick. I feel
10 grand I'd pay.
I feel that if you're lending a friend or family member money, you should just expect it to go
Yep.
away. I feel you should just expect it to go away.
Yep.
Oh my God. 40K is crazy. I hope they just expect it to go away, because that is a whack-a-dude.
Whack!
So it's quite clear that she pursued my dad. She knew my mom was very wealthy, as my mom was a client of hers, and quite frankly, financially mistreated a vulnerable widower and tried to sabotage his wedding. It took me a long time to see how awful all of his behavior was, but sometimes when you're in it, you can't see the woods or the trees.
Oh my
and
goodness.
that's it.
That's it.
That's
Reagan
all we got.
sucks.
Dude, Reagan is the worst.
Is a little poopy head.
Wow.
Dude, I don't want to use that language, but I'm gonna say it.
Whoa, that's I don't know, Sam.
Big
You're
old poopy head.
Wow, that's
big old, yeah. I
the old
stand on
PH?
this, 10 toes down.
Wow.
Standing on this poop.
Waffle
and that
stomping.
head. Waffle stomping into the shower drain.
wow.
Really quick. You're seeing some girl, sliding cheeks on the side. You're not going to loan $40,000, but are you going to loan $40K to the mother of your estranged child?
Mm-hmm. A fair baby.
Dang it, he was adopted. Dang it. My stepmother demands an apology from my wife, but I won't allow it.
Not today.
No apology needed, because I don't want it. I, 32 male, have been married to my wife, Vivian, 29 female, for 6 years. We have 3 kids. I have several siblings, but this instance revolves around my half-brother, Trevor, 18, who lives out of state. Trevor came to visit over spring break. My stepmom has never liked Trevor, mostly because she doesn't like his mother. By the way, this comes from other transition 437. If you want to submit your own stories, go to r/OKStorytime subreddit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, about 3 days into Trevor's visit, my stepmom kept making snarky comments about him, his mom, his family, school, his tattoo, etc. Trevor got tired of this and grabbed his car keys and said he was leaving. This was around 11 p.m. My stepmom laughs and says he doesn't have enough gas to get home or money to get more.
Dang.
Get wrecked,
Golly.
Trevor.
You're
Trevor
stranded.
said that he didn't need enough gas or money to get home. He just needed enough gas to get to my house.
Oh.
My stepmom laughs again and says, I'm not even home. I'm at work, which was true. I work nights. And that Vivian, my wife, would never let him stay there. Trevor says, I guess we'll see. We got a little standoff here,
Yep.
because he
He run
knew
away.
Vivian wouldn't tell him no and leaves. My stepmother then calls my wife and tells her that Trevor is on his way to our house and under no circumstances is Vivian to allow him to stay with us. Vivian says she's not going to turn him away, especially not in the middle of the night, and that everyone can all talk about it tomorrow. She'll let me know to call my dad when I get a chance to figure out what's going on. My stepmom begins to get angry and says that Trevor is not Vivian's child and is allowed to do whatever he wants, and Vivian needs to respect her as the mother of the family and that she can make life in the family difficult for Vivian if she needs to, for Vivian to understand her place. That is a threat.
Dude, and also real quick, I heard this, I heard a quote recently. I think it was on one of our own videos. They were like, if someone marries your dad in adulthood, that's not your stepmom, that is your husband's wife.
Ooh.
You're not telling me how you're gonna make my life.
You are not mom.
I'm a big boy.
I'm a man.
Yeah.
And that Vivian has no right to let people into my name's home without my knowledge. There were other things said as well, and eventually Vivian loses her patience and ends the call by saying that my mom is just mad that she can't be a F-bomb bully to Trevor anymore because he found a loophole. My stepmother calls me while I'm at work and tells me Vivian was rude to her. At this point, I have no idea that anything has happened. She then calls my dad, he works nights as well, and tells some version of events. My dad calls me and tells me that Vivian was disrespectful and had no right to speak to her that way and needs to apologize for her behavior. I get a call about 5 minutes later from Vivian. She tells me that Trevor is at our house, and they tell me everything that happened since Vivian wasn't at the house and Trevor wasn't there yet for a call. I call my dad and tell him that it doesn't sound like Vivian did anything except stand up for herself. And my dad insists that Vivian needs to apologize. Why does Vivian need to apologize? Last I heard, your stepmom was being mean to Trevor. Trevor leaves. Trevor goes and stays at Vivian. Vivian can let whoever she wants into the house.
Big girl.
Trevor's 18.
Yeah.
Trevor is legally a man.
That's true.
Non-legally a boy, but legally a man.
Yes.
I don't want to say non-legally a boy. There are men that have fought and gone to war at 18.
That's true.
And have become more men than us podcast chair boys could ever be.
Hey, we're on the front lines of content.
That is true. We are. You
We
know
really
what?
are.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
World War II vets have nothing on the podcast vets that we are. We have gone through the trenches.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I tell him if anybody is owed an apology, it's Vivian. Truth.
Big facts.
This was all 3 days ago. I'm getting texts from family members about Vivian needing to apologize and that Vivian doesn't have the right to get involved with family squabbles. And she shouldn't have let Trevor run away from the consequences of his actions. No one can tell me what the actions were. And if Vivian doesn't apologize, then she's not welcome around anymore.
So whack.
Whack. These roles should be Freaky Friday.
Yup.
Yeah, Hannah says podcast soldiers. Yes, ma'am. I don't think she owes an apology, but I had a bad relationship with my family for years when I was younger, and since it's improved drastically, I've been a lot happier having them in life, and I don't want to lose them like that, but I also can't just allow someone to disrespect my wife so blatantly and expect an apology for it. But Vivian at this point is starting to feel bad, and she always stresses too much over absolutely anything she thinks she might have done to upset someone. So this really sent her on a series of mental gymnastics.
Aww.
And she says she doesn't want to be the reason I have a bad relationship with my family yet again. Vivian is a goat.
That's true. She's worried about everyone, but you know what? She deserves to be worried about herself, man.
Yeah. She's literally thrown her body on the front lines.
Ain't it true?
Much like our World War II vets and our podcast veterans.
Yep.
All equally risking it all.
Yeah.
You know? It's beautiful to see. Hopefully we all can be an inspiration.
Yeah.
I've remained firm. Yeah, you have. That she doesn't owe them anything. But am I the a-hole for not having her do it just to get over with? There are some relevant comments and an update. But do you think OP is the a-hole, not the a-hole? Tell me what you believe.
Yeah.
In your heart of hearts.
I don't think OP's the a-hole. I definitely don't think Vivian is the a-hole. Vivian is the angel.
Angel.
If anything. And I don't, but to answer OP's question, I don't think that he should go to Vivian and say, hey, just apologize, because we are enabling the family and stepmom to be able to pressure her. And two, something we always say is like, your family, your problem, right? So OP is the one. This is OP's stepmom. This is OP's dad.
Yeah,
OP's
this is
family.
OP's cross to bear.
That is your burden to bear. So you got to go to the family and be like, listen, you can't treat my wife that way.
My wife.
My wife.
Drawing a hard line, and you should apologize.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Love you, but
exactly.
it is what it is.
OP needs to get out of the trenches, storm the battlefield of
Really
this.
milking this.
We got some relevant comments. We got an update.
Oh.
Comment 1 says, not the a-hole. Your wife is a good person for supporting your brother, whilst your stepmother is a manipulative and cruel woman and your dad is supporting her behavior. I think it's time to cut off both of them and let your brother know that you'll always have his back. I don't know about cut it off, but I think a little bit of a distance for sure. Yeah, draw a line. Opie says he definitely knows we will. The last 3 visits he's made, he stayed with us to avoid her. He just didn't this time because it was also the kids' spring break, and V had a lot of things planned for them to go do. Now she's been taking him with them. And commenter 2 says, you're all adults. Him too.
Big facts.
Your stepmother went on a bowling rampage, then full bat crap power tripping. She isn't your mother, nor your wife's mother, not even your brother's mother. So where the heck is she claiming the title? She's the stepmom. And even if she was, you are all adults. She can't make any of you do nothing. She has no authority on who enters you and your wife's home. No more than where and what your adult brother chooses to be or do. No, she can't do as she wants. No, she doesn't get to decide what other adults do with their lives.
Yep.
No, she can't force others to follow her orders to bully. No, she doesn't get to do whatever the duck she wants or conduct herself in such a horrific extent without consequences. What is really concerning is how fast she started to be menacing towards you and her wife. Yeah, she threatened quick.
Yeah.
How sure she was to not get anyone opposing her, certain of being able to force others into her insane demands. Your wife has nothing to apologize for. She deserves some for the insanity she had to put up with. Your stepmother wants to cause pain and control others. She reached a quite dangerous level of having lost touch with reality. She sounds actually seriously dangerous. And Opie responds, she has a daughter of her own from a previous marriage, and she and my dad have my youngest brother together also. They've been married for a long time, so I'm assuming that's where she came up with that line. And a comment 3 says, not the a-hole. Stepmom sounds like she's on a power trip. Can you tell your dad everything Vivian said / threatened? That her dislike of Trevor is also putting a wedge between you and your dad, too. You're right to stand up for your wife. And T, I'm sorry, everyone else isn't reasonable. And OP responds, I am planning to speak to my dad one last time about the situation tonight. I told him the conversation that happened, but I have no idea what my stepmother told him happened on the call. So, updates. April 1st, 2024, the next day.
Oh, April Fools.
April Fools. Let's see who's the fool. First of all, thank you for your advice and the kind words for / about Vivian. I spoke to my dad last night, and I wish I could say it went well.
Oh, brother.
But I think absolutely no one expected it to. He put me on speaker, and my stepmother was in the room with him. I said that Vivian will not be apologizing, and that she is an adult who can make her own decisions about having a guest in our home. I don't control her decision making. My stepmom cut in with, you're controlling her now by deciding for her she can't make things right. To which I responded, you might be right about that, but in this instance, it's a risk I'm willing to take. She doesn't have anything to apologize for. I said I'm not going to allow you to continue to cause her or myself unnecessary stress. I also told them they can't seriously expect an apology after the way they acted, and if they did, they were borderline insane. Throw it down.
Let them know.
Irving back to James!
You can't bully and belittle someone repeatedly and expect them to be okay with it forever, and you cannot threaten an adult and expect it to just go over nicely. I told them that if they were so willing to act like children and cut Vivian, and by extension me and our children, out of the family, then we would save them the hassle and do it ourselves. I told them we would be blocking their numbers along with everyone else. They tried to argue more, but I simply hung up, which might have been immature, but I was just done. I blocked everyone's numbers. About an hour later, I get a Facebook message from my stepsister. I rarely use Facebook, so I forgot I had her as a friend on there. My stepsister is the only sibling who isn't my dad's and is the only one of my stepmoms. She and Vivian have always been really close. She hasn't been involved in the situation at all, so I took the chance, called her. She asked me if everything her mom had told her was true, and I said, most likely not. But this is what happened, and explained it all to her. She then told me several instances where her mom had been similar to her and her fiance. She said she had wanted to cut ties a long time ago, but didn't want to be the only one in the family who is on the outs. And she doesn't have a dad, so no other family to turn to. She asked if I had really blocked them and planned to keep it that way, and I said yes, and so did Vivian Trevor. She said she'd call me back and hung up. By the way, you should never hang up on stories just like this. Because you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcast app, and search OK Storytime for full episodes. 50 plus days, straight days of full episodes.
That's right.
There's another relevant update, but let's discuss.
Let's talk.
What do you think about using this crazy stepmother's daughter as a weigh-in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, good to hear her out because like OP said, it's like, hey, she was good friends with his wife, Vivian, and, she wasn't involved in the mix. She was completely on the outside. I think it's totally fair, like, pick up the call, answer, get to hear her perspective. Not that, would necessarily change the stance with stepmom and everyone.
But maybe it helps you understand to the point where you can do something.
Yeah, and also, just really quick, we never learned what Trevor did. The stepmom would not reveal what he did, which
probably
leads me,
it was nothing.
Yes, it leads me to believe that it was absolutely nothing, and she knew that. If people knew that's why she was kicking him out, then they'd be like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" I do think I will say my guess is that this is one in a long line of crazy things that the stepmom has done. If that's true, there could have been maybe more of a timeout, and just see how things go. But it kind of feels like there's a lot more stuff that she's done in the past.
It should not seem like someone reasonable that you can maybe get through this stuff through communication.
Yeah.
Well, about 20 minutes later, I get a call from her saying that she had called my stepmom. Her mom had cut the cord with them as well and blocked their numbers too, as did fiance. So while I might have lost a decent amount of my family members, I did actually get to keep the best two out of the bunch. Plus, obviously, my wife and kids. Thank you to everyone for advice. We got a few comments and a response from OP. Comment 1 said, great resolution, the only rational way to deal with insane people. And comment 2, not the a-hole. Your stepmother is unhinged. She has no business telling your wife what to do with her home. What's with that BS that Vivian can't let people in the house without your permission? Why is your father not defending his son with your stepmother's rude comments? And that is where this story and episode ends.
I inherited my grandmother's apartment, but she won't let go of it.
Oh, grandma, just let go. You're going to be in the ground soon. That will be like your apartment.
Gotta pry it out of your old cold hands. Well, I, 32 female, have a grandma, 82 female, who is living in an apartment that I own. But let me start with more context. My grandma is a very toxic person. She is one of the most evil people that I have met in my life personally. Wow.
Oh my goodness. Your grandma sounds terrible.
Bold statements over here. She is extremely emotionally immature. I imagine an 8-year-old spoiled girl in the body of an 80-year-old woman. I don't know why that's making me laugh. By the way, this comes from Tiny Procedure 3521. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So she neglected her 2 kids, my mom and my uncle, to the point that they are both low contact and walking on eggshells their whole lives. She was also never interested in me and my brother, her grandchildren, to the point that I met her in person maybe only like 20 times in my entire life. How did she get your apartment? I don't know. I don't know. I met her for the first time when I was maybe 8 years old. There was one period of time where she was more in contact, but for the last 20 years, basically no contact. Again, still somehow living in your apartment. Interesting. I really hoped I would never have to deal with her for the rest of my life, but here we are.
Here we are. Granny has come back from the dead to haunt you while she's alive.
That's right. Follow that. Now to the current situation. I unfortunately lost both of my parents. Wow. My dad passed away 9 years ago due to cancer, and my mom unexpectedly passed away last year from heart failure. The grandma literally outlived her parents. It was an extremely difficult situation, not only emotionally, but also because my younger brother, 30 male, has a psychiatric diagnosis, and I had to find him a new place to live, manage a whole new situation from him, and settle how it will be from now on. That is a lot to handle. Also, my family was quite well known in my country due to their profession, so everything was public. Photographers were oh wow, that's crazy. That makes it a lot worse.
What?
Basically, OP's low-key kind of famous.
The OP is?
Well known in their country due to their profession, so everything was very public.
OP is well known due to their profession?
Yes. The family.
Oh, the family was.
The whole family. So
Whoa.
the parents passed away, and before the grandma, the grandma's outlived her children.
Yep.
OP's got to move the brother has a psychiatric disorder now. He's there is a lot going on.
This sounds like the Queen of England,
It kind of does.
like that patriarchy or whatever.
So professional photographers were everywhere, and it was just an overwhelming time. So OP's very famous. Low key, I think to Riley's point, could be royal family
royalty.
Kind of vibes.
Wow,
this is kind of crazy.
Big royals,
right? Hey, if that's you, OP,
yeah, dude,
come on the show.
Yeah, come on the show, please, and give us a crown.
Now, my grandma didn't bother coming to my mom, her own daughter's funeral. And when the newspapers asked her what will happen with my brother now because of his mental illness, she literally publicly said, "I don't care about those things."
That is crazy.
Wow. About the apartment.
Yo, Riley.
Yeah.
Can you put this into chat and see if we have enough information to know who these people are?
I got you.
About that apartment. It originally belonged to my great-grandparents, parents of said grandma. Grandma was basically born and raised there. Then from the ages of around 20 to 60, she was living in a completely different city. Meanwhile, her mom, my great-grandma, decided to give that apartment directly to her granddaughter, which is my mom.
Okay.
She had her reasons, and she decided to skip her daughter in the inheritance process and give this apartment directly to my mom instead. My mom then owned the apartment, did some much needed reconstruction, and allowed her mom, grandma from the story to live there. As I previously said, and you are probably putting the pieces together now, my mom suddenly passed away this year, so now I inherited and own the apartment.
Sheesh.
I am the only owner now, the sole owner of the apartment. We split the inheritance with my brother, and I left him all of the cash.
Okay.
Due to his mental situation, he wouldn't be able to take care of any real estate or anything like that. I'm his official helper in all things administration, governmental documents, finance management, etc., kind of like power of attorney, it seems.
Yep.
When my mom passed away, grandma wasn't really doing anything or wasn't in contact. And after a few months, I really needed to visit the apartment and take pictures to see the overall situation. As the owner of the apartment.
As you should.
As one would do. Hey, I want to go to my house.
My house at
In
the corner of your street.
Downey Street, that is.
Get him.
Sorry, I got excited. I'm calm. I called her, mind you. I heard from her after 20 years, and she was surprisingly nice. We managed to visit her, take pictures of the apartment, and she was quite friendly. I was glad, but suspicious. Suspicious. Later, I found out that my grandma never signed any contract with my mom, and she was basically living there rent-free, contract-free, and eventually responsibility-free. That's a lot of free. I decided to ask her to sign a regular contract and to provide some reasonable rent. I'm not a cruel person. I understand she is 82, living on a pension, though she is still partially working. Dang, man, who is this family?
Granny is still partially working?
Yes. Who is this family?
Riley.
This is crazy.
Riley, figure it out.
It's researching.
It's deep
Hurry up.
searching.
It's 25% done.
Yeah. Mush.
I offered her a third of the price that she would have to pay the owner or landlord if they were someone else. So basically charging a third of what the rent should be.
Yeah.
I decided to call her and ask if she would be willing to do that. At first, she was. She was in a good mood. And then she said, "If you need money, just tell me."
Wait, OP's asking okay, so wait, really quick.
Yes, sir.
It's OP's house.
Apartment. Yeah.
Sorry, it's OP's apartment.
Mhm.
Grandma's trying to live in there.
Is living. Just
And-
no contract, nothing.
Okay. So this is OP's apartment. Granny's living there. And he's like, "Hey, Granny, would you pay a third of what the rent would be?"
Yes.
Okay.
Can we get a contract in place? Would you? I just want to charge you a third of what the rent should be.
And how did and just to fully clarify,
Yes.
OP inherited this house?
Yes, it was passed down through a long rigmarole and eventually landed in OP's hands through inheritance.
Right.
The reason why grandma was living there, she was living there when OP's mom was still alive, when she owned the apartment.
Right.
So it kind of
but Granny's been just like staying there
long
rent free
time.
for a long time.
No contracts, nothing.
Right.
No, just straight up living in there.
So it is a tough situation though, because like she has been living rent free, and that like the expectation is she's going to continue to live there rent free. I do, though she is just absolutely terrible and a toxic person. I do think it's a little hard to charge someone who's been living rent free in a place like that's family.
Charging a third.
Yeah.
Opie says at first she was down for this. She was in a good mood. And then she said, if you need money, just tell me. I really didn't like this sentence because I don't actually need money from her. She is living for free in a place she doesn't own or have any legal rights to. I told her I would call her in 1 week again with more information. I didn't tell her the price yet. When I called her for the second time, her mood was completely different. She had an absolutely not attitude towards the whole contract situation. At first, she started blaming her own mother that she had given the apartment to my mom instead of her. Then she said how horrible of a granddaughter I am to want something like this from her. And she started basically threatening me that she can ruin my reputation in the newspaper. Now I am the only daughter of my parents. I do not work in any public profession. In fact, I would love to live a blissfully invisible life, so there's really no reputation to be ruined. I consider it nasty anyways.
I'll call the paper.
Yes.
Tell them what you did. I told page 6 that you charged your granny rent.
I do think I don't know what country this is, but I mean in America, you might have like squatters' rights if she's been living there for years and years and years. I think that there is a potential that like you just might be
wrecked.
Real quick, I think Opie had a line where she was basically like, I don't need the money. Why are we bothering?
Why are we bothering?
Like
exactly.
if we don't really, if
it
it's
sounds like you just want to punish this granny that's just awful.
Okay, it's 50%.
God dang it!
She cited that I must honor thy father and thy mother, which was very creepy, not only because she is not religious, but because it was the same sentence that my dad always used when I was not obedient. It made me physically sick. The last thing was that she started threatening to unalive herself, and that was the end of the call. It took me several minutes to be able to speak. I was at first crying uncontrollably, and then I shared it with my husband. My husband is a saint. My knight and the whole in-law family are the best people I've ever met, and I'm really thankful. So we decided to send her a letter in which I again offered the contract. I made the price even a little bit lower, and I also sent a proposition of the contract to her, so if she agreed, she could sign it right away and send it back. She replied with a handwritten note of some 2 paragraphs that she doesn't need any contract because she has been living there for 20 years or something like that.
That could be true. I mean, that could be true. A squatter something.
That's like that's not squatters' rights. That's like squatters' like legacy.
Yeah, woman's been there for a full generation.
Yeah,
dude. I mean, I don't know. Again,
it's not worth
she
it.
sounds terrible, but I don't think charging a granny rent for a house that stayed within your family for decades that she's been is like worth it, and also like just feels, I don't know, it feels a little bit whack on OP's side if I'm being honest.
For a few, like guessing here, totally guessing, a few $100.
Yeah,
a few $100. We're doing all this for a month.
The palace, I don't know.
Okay,
unless it's the palace. But even then, OP says they don't need the money, so it's not about the money. It's about the punishment, and you're punishing yourself if anything else.
Too much. That's a good.
We say self-care over pettiness on this show. This feels like a little bit of pettiness over self-care.
So in the meantime, I also found out more about her behavior in the apartment building. 10 years ago, there was an official complaint from the whole building regarding her unhinged behavior, which
the whole building
leading me to believe all of the butlers in their quarters were saying that she was causing quite a ruckus. She was damaging property, leaving some parts of the building open so that way some burglary happened. Not her intention, by the way. But anyways, she spilled a whole bucket of water in the hallway, etc., etc.
I don't know. That last one feels like a little bit like we're nitpicking.
Yeah.
She's an old woman.
Yeah.
She's stole.
I'm trying to carry my buckets of water.
I don't know.
My water.
I feel like we're reaching.
We gathered all of this and we delivered it to the lawyer. OP, you're doing too much. We've already said that. In the end, we sent her a letter giving her another chance to communicate and sign the contract. She didn't answer. Nothing. Silence. So now I'm standing at the point of taking it all to court and possibly ordering her to leave the apartment by law. We're going to have the police escort Granny out of here. All the documents are being prepared. We haven't sent it just yet. The whole situation is emotionally very difficult for me. For my whole life, I've always been conditioned, manipulated, and gaslit into submission, being the caretaker for everyone and not being able to say no, especially to family, in order to keep the peace. I've actually had enough, and part of me wants to really stop being a doormat and stand up for myself and my rights. Another part of me is somehow scared to be the villain in someone else's story and be seen as an evil person ruining the life of an old woman. By the way, if you do not want to be an evil person and to grow into the best version of yourself, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeart Podcast app and search OK Storytime for 2,000 episodes of good advice.
2,000 episodes. That's a lot of episodes, John.
So many.
So many.
Endless content of good advice given goofily. So that's all I'm saying. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got one final piece to this saga.
John, give it to me. But my thing before we go into this is I do feel like, as terrible as this old lady may be, I feel like OP is maybe doing a little bit too much at the cost of their own happiness.
Agreed.
Just let this old lady pass away in peace, you know?
Yeah. She's 82.
She's 82.
Not that long.
You got like 3 years, maybe.
It could be 20.
It could. That's true. It could be 40.
20.
I mean, people live like
120.
That would be, dude.
Goes
right up to the cutoff.
120.
Dude, you know, I think they're gonna solve aging in the next like 10 years.
You could be right.
I think if we at least like AI Twitter is telling me that if you just make it 10 years, we're golden.
Gucci.
We're golden.
All we need is some virgin blood. We can do it.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna be having HRV like Riley in no time. My heart is gonna be as young as Riley's.
What is it today?
Dude, I don't.
Let me look at it. I'm gonna look at it right now.
Riley's always flexing on me, bro.
I slept pretty good last night.
Riley is always flexing on me.
Okay.
Let's see.
Strain for strain.
Ugh.
So my uncle is another almost last living relative, though being traumatized by her as her son for his whole life. He is also an enabler and is now not communicating with me because I want a contract. Wow, dang, dude, come on, uncle solidarity. What's going on? It hurts not only because there's basically no one on my side of the family left, but because I always liked him very much. But such is life. I also have a 2-year-old and I'm currently pregnant with my second baby. It is really just a lot right now. Also, my grandma is healthy. She has longevity in her genes. Her mom passed away at 93.
Yeah, dude.
93.
Yeah.
10 more years?
Yeah, you might have a while.
You've got potentially over a decade left to wait.
At least. And people are living longer and longer. My grandparents are 93 and 92.
Wow.
How old your great grandpa?
He's 92. I need to see him soon.
92.
He's
bro.
92, man.
And I think my grandpa and grandma, I think they got another 10 years. I think they're golden.
I would believe it. I think you got good genes in the family.
My grandma and my mom were intellectually sparring yesterday like 2 days ago about politics.
Dude.
Lovely.
There we go. They're sharp.
Yeah.
It means they're sharp.
My grandpa yesterday was like, "Are you doing the deed before marriage?"
What did you say?
I said,
Yeah, Grandpa.
and he's like, "Did your Catholic upbringing mean nothing?" And then we had a beautiful conversation about religion and spicy sleep.
Dude, good on you for standing on business.
Oh, dude, I I can't lie.
It's true. Even to grandpa.
Even to grandpa.
Dude, my great grandpa tried to give me money to buy in high school. I was like, Grandpa, I'm good. I'm scared. I don't even know what that looks like.
Dude, that is literally exactly what I'm gonna do as a grandpa. That is exactly
awesome.
what I'm gonna do.
Not by that time. You're probably gonna have to give them WD-40 for their robot.
Oh
toys.
yeah, your robot
Sex
kids.
robots.
My grandma has longevity in her genes. Her mom passed away at 93. She has some difficulty walking, but mentally she is okay, apart from being bat crap crazy, of course. So would I be the a-hole if I sued my grandma and eventually kicked her out of my apartment? So that's the end of the story. But we have to have this conversation, Sam. And ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna see if we can get to the bottom of the big secret royal family in a second here too. So stick around for that. But I'm gonna be honest here, Sam. I think she kind of might be the a-hole.
Yeah.
Definitely to herself.
I think so too. I think so too. Like, while yes, it is, you have inherited it, and so I guess legally you can do what you want. I think the fact that like the default was the grandma was staying there rent free kind of means that you inherited that problem when you inherited the apartment. You know?
Yeah. And like, I think it would be, what's a completely different scenario is, hey, me and my husband, we have a 2-year-old, we have another baby.
Yeah, we're
not rolling in dough here.
Yeah, if it was a money issue, then I think that would be totally fine. But again, OP is like, it's not a money issue.
Yeah.
I'm part of this royal Scottish family. Right?
Yeah, they said none of them was a perfect match. We got one in France, we got one in Scotland.
All right, Chad, if you got it like that,
yeah,
let
guess
us
in
know.
the comments of this video. Somebody go and
see if we can find this out.
Yeah, do your internet research and make it the top like comment. I want to see that on this video.
Yeah,
but that's it.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. I think OP, you're a little bit the a-hole, but hey, people disagree with us all the time. What do you think? Put your answers in the comments below. And with that, I think that is the end of this episode.
Yes, sir.
So if you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you,
and see you tomorrow.